Good morning, everyone. Jim Clarke here at the Synchronicity Sanctuary to share another contemplative focus with you. A focus that I've used in my days here at the sanctuary, in addition to a daily meditation and holistic lifestyle. That has brought me into greater awareness and a much more blissful experience of my life. So that's why I'm sharing these things with you in case you're might be inspired to do something similar to this, to help you gain more awareness, to expand yourself, and to have more bliss in your life. So, the focus I'm sharing today is creation is a miraculous process of life. Consider your life as a miracle. Add to this a long known principle of all the wisdom traditions is that the creation is not different than the creator. There is no separation from the source of our experience as humans and that which is creating this experience. It's not something that lies beyond us or separate from us. There is only one source consciousness. So, with that principle, you can take it in and contemplate on that insofar as it's developing more of a positive polarity focus within yourself, which is one of the fundamental principles of balance that we must create consciously if we ever want to access the truth of who we are. So when we're born into this world, by default, the negative polarity in a polarized field of experience, which is what the human experience is by default the negative polarity is dominant. The negative polarity is the contractive polarity, which allows us to maintain the human form, but it also cuts us off from access to the truth of who we are. We cannot fully experience life here unless we experience the very essence of who we are as well. So how do you get there, and how can you manage to have a body in such a dense form and a mind that's running all kinds of data and stuff and beliefs, and still be able to have a what we would call a spiritual experience of who we are? And this is the process of how you do this is simply by educating yourself on how things work. So one of the principles that has long been known in wisdom traditions and what I was taught as well is that we have the polarities that we both know. There's the good, the bad, the up, the down, the right, the left, so forth and so on. But there's also another element that is at play in our human experience, and that is that between the two polarities there's also a space, and it's in that space that we truly live. It's that space where we come from. It's that space who we are being always, even though we may not be aware of it. So how do you get access to that space, and how can you grow your awareness so that you're actually experiencing that space while you're still a human being? And that's simply by bringing balance to the polarities and then moving the positive polarity as a dominant focus. Because once the positive polarity becomes dominant in your experience, then you can access consciously that space between the polarities. Then you have a distance between your mind, which is by default very negative, and the physicality and everything around you as the same consciousness that you are. Excuse me, that you are. So to do this, we put a focus mentally with contemplations such as this, and then we closely watch our experience when we take this kind of a contemplative focus in us. Creation is a miraculous process of life. So my life is a miracle. It's a miracle that is constantly happening. So how can that be? And what is a miracle anyway? So a miracle is a word that points to something that we don't understand, right? If someone were to come here from a distant planet that was very advanced from us, they could probably manifest something physically out of thin air, seemingly. And that to us would be a miracle. So, but it could just be a technology that's more advanced. And life is like that. As you gain more awareness of who you are, more awareness of who you are and the power of creation itself, which is you, then the miracles become the normal. Even though you may not perform miracles, you may not be able to perform miracles, but the awareness of that potential, the awareness and experience of that force and that power of the source of ourselves and all creation is overwhelming to the mind. It's overwhelming to all the negativity, and then you can still have some negativity, so you can keep your form, right? It's just going to disappear. So you manage this process until you start to gain that experience. It might be once in a while you'll have a breakthrough experience where you'll get a taste of that. I had many of these in my earlier days of meditation. And they're very uplifting and they're very blissful, but then you tend to try to go back to your comfort zone, your default, but you can't go back all the way. So irregardless of what you may think, meditation and holistic lifestyle works, and it works always, as long as you maintain that focus and you maintain a practice. You will gradually gain more and more positivity, if you will, in your own experience. Your thoughts, you will be directing to positive thoughts. You will not go to places where negativity is dominant, where you might be re-exposed to such negativity and contract yourself and pull yourself back to where you were in an attempt to. But so you maintain yourself as positively as you can. You think positive thoughts because you direct your mind to do so. You flow positive emotions because you direct yourself to do so. And even when you can't, even if you're overwhelmed for a moment because something happens and you're all shook up or you're bummed out, and so your mind kicks in with its default stuff, you gradually recognize it for what it is, and you do not identify with that. You understand that that is a process of the polarization in creation, and that you are perfectly capable of returning to a positive focus, and intentionally do that. Maintaining a focus such as this one, creation is a miraculous process of life. Something that simple can help you to anchor into a positive focus and to maintain a dominant positive polarity. And as you do this over time and with a dedicated focus, you will gradually open up to that space between the polarities. You will have a distance between the mental processes and the emotional processes that are happening in your experience, where that blissful energy that is fundamental to your very existence begins to unfold in a palpable, experiential way. And as that happens, as that unfolds, that blissful experience that you're having, along with your awareness of the right, the wrong, the good, the bad, and so forth, begins to give you some clarity in terms of the play of consciousness. The fact that consciousness has chosen to recreate itself in an imaginary way. It's imagining that it is something other than itself. It's pretending to be what it is not. And every human being on the planet is an expression of that play, an expression of consciousness in the pretense of being what it is not. And in that process, gradually pulling itself back into the recognition of who it truly is, in terms of you, in terms of me, in terms of everybody on the planet. And there's a wide spectrum in terms of where you are in this process. When you consider the population of the planet, most people, at least historically most people, have been in the earlier stages of this game, where the negative polarity, the I am not experience, is dominant. And so this is where the where we get the negative experiences, the suffering, and the absence of any kind of fulfillment or elevation in our experience of life, until we have had enough of that experience that we no longer go there in an attempt to find something fulfilling, something lasting, where we find love, where we find something that we truly want. And so when we do this, this is when the process of awakening begins in the human experience. And as you cross that bridge, as we say, then you have awakening experiences. A teacher comes into your life, and you're ready to welcome and open yourself up to that teaching, and you begin the process on a more conscious level. And then you take contemplative focuses like this one, and you just put a focus on it, and then you let that do its work, and it does too. I know in my experience here at the sanctuary, even though I was in a community where we all did this, where that was an ongoing 24/7 focus, I would get a contemplation as I had this one. I would be given that contemplation, then I would read it, and I would kind of ponder that and keep it in my focus for a while. Then I would just let go of it. And sure enough, all manner of experiences would come into my experience in relation to that contemplation. Was it a miracle? Or was it drudgery? Was it suffering? Was it terrible? It would have to change it to be better. I'd have to go somewhere else to have a better life. All this kind of stuff would come up for me in relation to that contemplative focus, simply because I was still clearing out data that I was unconsciously holding on to. And this is really a process of making the unconscious conscious. And once you do, even though you may not experience something leaving you, it really is. It's going away. It's gradually being replaced with a greater level of the truth of who you are, a more blissful, a more happy experience of life, and a more accepting and loving experience of life, where those around you in your world are perfectly fine just being who they are. They don't have to be somebody different any more than you do to be complete and to be perfectly normal, to be who you are supposed to be, because you can't be anything else. You are you, and that experience is perfect for you, and the fact that you're in the world says just that. If you're in the world living a life as a human being, you're here because you're supposed to be here. And in one form or another, your life is also serving the processes of those in your world. You are demonstrating something, you are sharing something that is appropriate for the people that you run into in your life. And even though we may not see it that way, that is the way it is. This consciousness is orchestrating the show. And one of the contemplations, in addition to this one, that I particularly like, and I use it to this day, is trust and watch. As a human being, as an individuated consciousness, in the play of consciousness, I really don't have a lot of choices. I'm playing out the primary intention in consciousness to fully be itself. And in order to create that experience, consciousness has created the pretense of being what it is not. Even though it can't really be that, it can pretend to be that. And a space between the polarities is where the witnessing consciousness exists, where we witness our own life and the lives of those in our world as that. So we don't get hung up too much in the dramas and the fantasies, mostly negative, that are being entertained about world happenings or local happenings, about relationships and so forth, because the love that we seek is the love that we are, and the space between the polarities, once it becomes an experiential component of your experience, is that love that you were seeking. You thought it was out there in someone or something, but of course it's never. That everything that you see outside of yourself is a projection that you are creating within yourself. And if it's an unconscious projection where you're still not capable of being aware enough of where the source of that projection is and the fact that it is a projection, then it's going to be real to you. And that person's the one you love, or that thing is a thing you have to have, and so forth and so on. But as you gain the experience of who you truly are, as that becomes more and more palpable within your experience, then the realization that you already have everything you need, and what you do need will certainly manifest in your life as it is supposed to. So that's the contemplation I wanted to share with you today. It's one that I have experience of now at a level where, even though my mind may come up with a thought here and there that, oh gee, I really want to have X, Y, or Z, I'm always at choice, because I know that I will have what I need. I will always get what I need until I'm ready to leave this form and this life. So what's the big deal? Anyway, my life has been enhanced greatly by practicing meditation, holistic lifestyle, and using contemplations such as this over many years. But you're living your life, you're going to do something in all the years of your life. So it's really a question of what kind of an investment you're going to make in life. What is going to give you the greatest results? And these results are ones that you take with you. So I highly recommend them, and I'm happy to share what I can to help stimulate something in yourself that might move you more into a more dedicated practice of daily meditation and a holistic lifestyle. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, and I'll be back again next Monday with another contemplative focus to share with you. Thank you.